Yeah, it has started. How was Buenos Aires?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you caught that little video just the other day, where I was talking about 4 million homeless people here.
Yeah, really interesting.
Yeah, that was really
Good.
interesting. I only just saw that, learned that recently when I like Wikipedia'd it, because I wanted to try and give a bit more factual information when I was doing my like videos, you know.
Yeah. What's the
And
reason? I mean, what's the deal with that?
I think mainly because of the dollar, the economy, and a more interesting fact that I only just learnt, which you possibly know, is that it's had like 3 military takeovers.
Oh, well, that would be a factor. Yeah.
And so they've, kind of like Hitler or whatever. They've killed a lot of people, just pulled them out of their house, and people have just disappeared. Like I heard some disgusting stories. It
Yeah.
was really shocking. And they only like the last one was in like 1983 or something like that.
Yeah. Government. Yeah. If people are allowed to be free, if markets are allowed to be free, if people are allowed to live and trade and with their neighbors peacefully, it makes such a difference. You see people thrive. People can, do what they do best and sell to their neighbors and the country at large and the world at large. But if they live under fear and they're, as you say, being pulled out of their homes and shot or whatever else, abominable things, yeah, it's just not a great thing. It's terrible. So here in Auckland, of course, we haven't got anything like that at all. So I mean, and poverty in New Zealand is, I think people, because I lived in Southeast Asia for quite a while, really, and you see homelessness and poverty there, and you see, I mean, I actually had a situation where I lived out of my car for a while, but you talk to people in Southeast Asia about that, and they go, "You had a car?" You know,
Mm,
it's
yeah.
just a different level of poverty, So I can imagine there are certainly people in Buenos Aires who's in that situation as well. So, yeah, not great. Yeah.
Have
So
you been to South America?
you know,
Oh,
I've spent a lot of time in North America. I've spent a lot of time in Southeast Asia and Europe, and that's the thing. And I like the States. I've been there a lot, but I haven't been to South America at all. Actually, that's not quite true. I did pass through Panama
huh.
on a boat once. So I don't know if that counts, but I didn't really get off the boat. We just went through the canal. That was a long
I,
time ago.
I've also spent in my last 7 months here a bit of time in Buenos Aires, or 3 months in Rio de Janeiro, and so in Brazil, and that was really interesting. A lot more beautiful. Like Buenos Aires has like the smallest amount of green space per person, I think, out of like pretty much any city.
Oh.
It's got like 2% green space, whereas like the recommended's 20, and Paris has got like 11.
Yeah, well, they now reckon that I was reading something the other day about just reducing the temperature in a hot city. Just plant lots of trees, and
Yeah.
they got some really good stats on that. So I was quite interested, but yeah, that's really interesting. Oh, that's a very low percentage. Yeah.
What you were saying about the free economy is very interesting because that's like, I mean, yeah, I asked you about the universal wage because Elon Musk kind of talks about that, and he's definitely all about the free economy and yeah, and roboticizing,
Mm.
automation, which is your big key thing.
Well,
And
an interesting thing, I think. I think it's inevitable in some way. It's just when it's going to happen, and I'm a little bit against UBI at the current time for the reasons I stated, because I mean, right now there are jobs or there is industry to be had for those who choose that way, and with the internet, what we're basically using right now. Um, I mean, I've been poor. I've been homeless. So I'm well aware of, eating out of a trash can type thing. But I would say anyone who has access to the internet now, their choice to remain poor makes it much more of a choice than it once was. Because quite simply, right now, I mean, in New Zealand, for example, anyone who can get access to the internet can make money. And for even if you don't own a computer, even if you don't go to school, you've still got. I mean, the Auckland Public Library, I think it's 250 free megabytes a day. So if you can make it to a public library, you can get a free 250 meg a day, and you can trade with that.
That's so right. Yes.
I mean, you can go on Trade Me and buy stuff for nothing. I mean, even if you don't go on Trade Me, because Trade Me doesn't deal a lot in free goods, but there are a lot of places that do have free goods. Like in New Zealand, we've got Neighbourly, and Neighbourly has a market.
Yes.
And the market, I mean, there's going to be a whole bunch of goods on there that are free. And I've certainly got free stuff off Neighbourly because we have a very nice warm fire you see in the other room. But I mean, the amount of people who have just chopped down a tree or something and just got a thing up there just trying to get rid of the damn tree. I mean, they just put free wood, come and collect it. It's there, and we're thinking, well, there's probably like $200 or $300 worth of firewood there that we would otherwise pay for. We both win. They get rid of the damn tree that they can't do anything with, and we get to stoke the fire for another couple of weeks. So if people are industrious enough, it's possible. I mean, ultimately, it's their resourcefulness. It's what they're prepared to do. And sometimes that doesn't suit people. If you're a beneficiary of your sickness, if you've got like small children or something, and you can't get out of the house and you can't get anywhere, and you're too sick to move. I mean, obviously, these people need to be helped. But I mean, it was really interesting. I had an exercise in class a few weeks back now. It was really interesting because I actually don't like welfare that much. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm fully in favor of helping anyone who needs help. But
when I ask you the question about universal wage, you're like, what?
Well, put it this way. I said to the class, because some people were quite incensed by my idea that really we didn't need welfare in the way we had it. And I said to the class, look, how many people here, if you knew that you had a neighbor who needed some blankets or needed some money to get on the bus or couldn't get somewhere, like they had to get to the doctor, who would put their hand in their own pocket? Who would drive them there? Who would make them lunch? Who would give them a bed for the night? Who would do something for their neighbor if asked, or if they knew they could be of service, and do it even in an ongoing way if they had to? Who here would do that? And everyone put their hands up. I said, okay, keep your hands up, look around the room. Now tell me why we need welfare. And because I mean, I do this all the time. I mean, I know that the neighbor, he can't cut his lawn. So I send my boy around and he cuts the lawn, It's just not that tricky. You do things for people. And even if they don't need it doing, I mean, you still do it, It's so I don't know about the way we've got the problem I have with the way we've got welfare done at the moment is, and this all comes back to UBI as well, is where does that money actually come from? Because I mean, if you're going to give everyone $1,000 a month, or which is like the nominal amount people keep talking about, where does that money come from? It's got to come from somewhere, And there's quite a cool meme.
Starnet.
So what's that?
Starnet, like how Elon Musk plans to fund his space travel.
Yeah. But what I was going to say is there's an interesting meme that's going around on the internet at the moment. This kid's talking to a parent. It's a fictitious one, but it kind of just rings a little bit true for me. The politics aside, I'm not interested in. By the way, so my politics are simple. I don't support a person or a party. I don't care about politicians. I don't care about parties. I'm interested in policies. I'm interested in ideas. I vote for policies and ideas. When it comes to an election, I look at the policies out there. I look at the ideas that are being espoused. And what I say is, okay, which ones are going to help me, my family, and the country move in the direction I want? And then I vote accordingly. So, for example, I would have voted for Obama twice based on hope, change. There were these two big things: closing Guantanamo Bay, ending the war in Iraq, Affordable Health Care Act. Big thumbs up from me, 2 votes for Obama. But when it came to Trump, I looked at lowering taxes, deregulation, ending war in Iraq. I don't particularly like Trump, but I don't care about Trump. I would have voted for those policies. Clinton's policies were just getting rid of Trump. So for me, I'm a policy person. I'll give you an example. I think Jacinda Ardern in New Zealand, really nice person, but I can't vote for her policies. I'd invite her around for dinner with a friend, but I can't vote for her policies because her policies, as far as I can see, are just keeping people in a state of learned helplessness, which is where it comes back to me for UBI.
Entitlement.
Well,
yeah, that's the
the
big
trouble
thing.
with entitlement is it becomes a right after a while, and
Yeah.
the one thing I've learned, and I have studied a little bit on psychology, well, if you want something, the more money you throw at it, the more you'll get of it. So I'll give you an example. I live opposite a beautiful reserve across the road. Now, if I were to sit out there on the reserve with a handful of $10 notes and say, okay, any kid, or in fact anyone at all, who does a cartwheel, I'll give them $10 for every cartwheel they perform on the reserve. What would happen? I'd get kids from all around the neighborhood just sitting there doing cartwheels before and after school, even maybe skipping school.
Bags of rubbish picked up.
Yeah, maybe, that. But if I said it's $100, I'd get executives hanging up their suits and doing a few cartwheels before work. I get people busing from all over orphanages. If you want something, just pay for it. You'll get more of it.
Yeah. And that was like I've been researching about ways to make a passive income, and I thought one of the most interesting ideas was to employ somebody to work for you. It's like, oh, that's interesting. It's simple.
Yeah. I mean, it's they're not passive, but suddenly you are. But so for me, UBI is an interesting thing. It may be inevitable, and I'm open to that. Because at the end of the day, if there's no more jobs left and everything is automated, and there's really nothing that people can do that's of value that people are prepared to pay for, and I don't know that will ever be the case, and I think it's a long time coming. I don't think it's going to be in my lifetime. Certainly, I mean, that's why I really like certain types of business.
To be honest, there's actually already countries that do it.
I know this, yeah. However, and by the way, the results of those countries is not bad. It's not like everyone's stopping working and not doing anything. We can look at the stats. What are the countries? Is it Norway or is it what is it? There's
Norway and the one above and Alaska.
Right.
I'm sure there's others, but definitely Norway, yeah. Because I've got heaps of oil and stuff, yeah.
Well, yeah, they're pretty rich.
And like the Middle East, they must have that too. Huh?
I don't know. I actually don't know the Middle East situation, to be honest. Certainly, I mean, the Saudis have grown rich on oil. I'm all in favor of not using oil at all. I think electric cars are brilliant. It'd be interesting to find out what happens when either the oil runs out or whether people stop using oil. Now, I don't know if that will ever happen. I don't think it'll happen in my lifetime, but be interesting to see how they then cope with no money coming in and all those. I mean, are they going to is it just going to sink back into the desert? I mean, what happens to Saudi? I'd be interesting to find out.
Well, it will always be there, but yeah, I mean, Elon Musk makes a good kind of point of view. He's all about electric cars and changing everything to electric, apart from space travel. That's it's burning fossil fuels.
Well, I don't think it needs to. I mean, there are other types of drive that are being, and I'm not quite sure of the details of some of those, but there are driven by atomic fuels and things like that. I mean, one of the things that people are talking about for cars is powering them with nuclear fuels. Now, I'm not quite sure how I feel about that, but there are certain nuclear fuels that are fairly safe. I mean, people just don't realize how common uranium is on Earth. I mean, it's not that common, but it's way more common than tin as an element. I mean, we use tin for, but it's far more common than tin is. So it's actually fairly common. But thorium is the big one. You can get a golf ball sized piece of thorium that can power a car for 100 years. You can't use it for nuclear reactors for like an atomic bomb or something. It doesn't have the fission or the fusion capability. And you can power a car for 100 years on it. So I don't know. I just don't think we need fossil fuels. I think it's just completely. I mean, much as I enjoy driving a grunty car or whatever, I think you can do far better with an electric motor. To be honest, it's.
Oh, they are. They're so much more safer. Like they're really, really safe. They're much more responsive. You can really drive them insanely, and they've got really good traction control. It's amazing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, I agree. I totally agree. it's yeah. I haven't gone that way myself yet, because we get a lot of Jap imports, you see. But the Jap imports we're getting with electric cars, they're an older generation. They don't have the batteries don't last that long, and if they do last that long, they've already been half their life's gone, and so on. And a new any, and I've never bought a new car in my life. But a new, I don't know, Nissan Leaf or something is 40 something, nearly 50 grand over here.
Get a Tesla.
Or Tesla, that's 80 to 100 and something grand, or 200 even for a top. And they got a new one that's coming out or was out now. What is it? Accelerates from 0 to 60 or something, or 0 to 100 Ks in less than 2 seconds. It's just insane. Yeah. Elon Musk was making a big thing about it. Yes, he's got the new one, 0 to 60 miles per hour, and under 1.9 seconds it's meant to do, which is just insanity. So that would be very exciting to see that.
Rocket boosters?
All electric, you see. All electric.
Orbital rocket booster?
Yeah. Yeah. So, but that's me on UBI.
Well, yeah, you one of your points I remember that I thought was relative is you believe in no minimum wage.
I don't like the minimum wage. And the reason for it is this. If we want a free market economy, a true free market economy, then there are certain things that don't coexist easily. One of them is a minimum wage and the free market. It's because really what you're saying with the minimum wage, you are restricting an aspect of the free market and then expecting the rest of it to be free, but then it won't be, it can't be. Yes. For example, another situation, here's another, right. And this is what Trump's finding now, for example. In a way, and I think Trump's going about it completely wrong. He doesn't need a wall at all. I mean, all countries restrict immigration in some way, and I don't think that's totally unreasonable. I mean, hell, you go to Japan, they just don't let certain people in there. Are they wrong? So if you look at what Trump's doing and he actually wants to restrict immigration, and by the way, I'm actually for the unfettered immigration into any and all countries. I think the movement should be free. I think people should vote with their feet. But if he just wants to restrict it, he just wants to go with the other economic principle. You can't have open borders and a social welfare state, because people will just come for the social welfare. All he has to do is kill social welfare and he can forget about the war. The only reason people are coming is because it's better than where they were. Look at Hong Kong right now. Hong Kong, huge turmoil over there. And people are madly fighting to maintain the little freedom they do have. But people are voting with their feet. There's not people trying to break out of Hong Kong and to go back to mainland China. It's just not happening, So yeah, I totally agree. I think minimum wage is, and minimum wage also is a personal thing for me too, because as you're probably aware, I try to help people get out of poverty and things. And I work with a lot of people who, for better or worse, they're unemployed, unskilled, inexperienced, and unqualified. That's a horrible combination of those four things. Now, obviously, people can upskill. The problem with upskilling or getting more qualified is that's why universities, excuse me, breakfast catching up with me. That's why, if you look at university fees, they've risen 5 to 6 times the rate of inflation, because people are just saying, well, I can't make ends meet. I should just go back and get another qualification. I don't think that's a bad thing per se, but universities are milking it. They're just charging whatever they want, and people are having to pay it. So for me, you see, there was a time when I was a kid and I wanted to learn something. I'd go and pump gas at the local station, or I'd go and work at McDonald's, or I'd act as an usher at a movie theater. And they either gave you a $5 and they gave you a free hot dog, and you got to sneak your friends into the movies once a week. And that would be kind of your payment. But you get experience, and then you'd use that experience to get your next job. Because the big fact we know is you can't get a second job without first having had a first job. It's just not possible. So, I mean, logically, but the problem is, you see, people are not getting that first job. They're not getting their foot on that first rung of the ladder. And they're having to go into literally their second job without having had their first job. And you can't do it. And people are going, well, what's your experience? What's your qualifications? Now, if someone came to me, and let's say I owned a movie theater or a cinema or whatever it is, and someone came to me and said, look, I don't have any qualifications or experience. I know you want to pay someone $17.70 an hour, but tell you what, if you just take me on and give me a chance, you can pay me, I don't know, $8 an hour. You can pay me less than half the wage, and just give me a chance. Maybe after 6 months you can review it, and if I'm worth more, great. And if I'm not, then we'll say goodbye, and maybe you'll give me a good reference. But at least that person can get their foot in the door, get the foot on the ladder. I get a good deal because I get someone who's not costing me as much, but I'm taking a risk because they don't have the experience. But they're going to get their foot on the first rung of that ladder. But that no longer happens. So I do not like minimum wage for this reason. And the fact is, I mean, a lot of people think, well, there's going to be a lot of people who are being taken advantage of. But the fact is, less than 5% of the country is on the minimum wage. It's just not that many people in New Zealand who are on the minimum wage at all. So it's not such a big problem as people think. But I think for the unskilled, uneducated, unemployed, and inexperienced, that that's the thing. I mean, and I work with people, for example, who have just been released from prison, who served lengthy sentences. I mean, what are they supposed to do? I mean, you apply for that job, and it's like, well, what have you been doing for the last 5 years? Well, I mean, what do you say? And it's terrible for these people who are just trying to just get their foot on that ladder. So for me, that's why I don't like the minimum wage. I mean, and by the way, for people who are worth more than the minimum wage, no problem at all. Pay them whatever they're worth, or I mean, it's a no-brainer. So that's the minimum wage for me. That's my
I guess I've got 2 questions for you left. Is
sure.
Who do you find as inspiring? Like, who do you look up to, and who do you follow? Your mentors, kind of.
Crikey. Well, there are people I follow. I follow you actually as well.
Oh, I mean, like your, that's how I wanted to frame it. If you were to have a dinner party or something like that, have 5 people at your table, kind of thing, dead or alive, who would they be?
Dead or alive. Crikey. Well, I think I'd get my parents back, to be honest. But apart from that,
your mum was just a year ago.
Yeah, she passed away September 27, 2017. Was it 17? Yeah, 2017. Yeah. That was just all in one go. That was very sad. And of course the kids miss their grandma. But if it was non-family and non-friends, and it was just people who have inspired me or do,
it mean a lot to you, yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking in the business realm, first of all. Certainly
You make
Brad
money.
Sugars. Yeah, well, Brad Sugars was my
Brad
first main.
Sugars. Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
he
Yeah,
was my
yeah.
first big, right up there for me. I went to his
Oh,
boot camp.
wow.
I just and
Yeah,
I
he's quality.
really interesting. I went to his boot camp back in, I think it was 2003, and I
Oh,
was
yeah.
just completely yeah. It was a week on the Gold Coast.
Cool.
At the Royal Pines Resort, I think it was. And I spent a week there with him, and there was about 200, 150 sort of people there. It was amazing, and I learned a lot. And then the next year, because you went away and you did all the stuff you learned, presumably, and I did, and I did pretty well. And next year, he actually invited me back as one of his team. So hang on, who's this? Oh, it's my wife. I'll just not answer that phone. Now I'm in trouble. I'll get her back later. But yeah, so I went to his boot camp. The next year I came back as one of his team. He invited me back, so I'd done pretty well, so I could share my story and help other people
Yeah.
at the camp. But it was wonderful, and he's a hard nosed businessman. He
Yeah.
doesn't suffer fools, and he takes no crap from nobody. But
He's actually quite interactive on Instagram.
is he? Yeah. You see,
Yeah,
I'm not an
that's
Instagram
pretty cool.
follower, but he does
Yeah,
he does a daily drive time
he
on.
does. Yeah.
And he does on Facebook. Is it on Instagram as well? Is it?
Absolutely, yeah. And he will respond if you answer any questions.
Yeah, you can type. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So he does his drive time either in his Rolls Royce or he's got a Tesla as well. He's
Yeah.
and he does the hands free thing. He says, "Oh, just excuse me, I'm
Yeah.
just going to put automatic mode or
Yeah.
whatever." So hands free mode.
Totally.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so I got to know him personally, and
Oh, wow.
yeah, so really interesting guy. And certainly respect him for his business acumen and what he's
Yeah.
achieved. And so I think he's extraordinary. A few other people worthy of mention, less known, would be Marc Dussault. He is a French Canadian, really interesting guy. Lives mainly in Australia, and I met him at I can't remember what it was. It was an event in Sydney, and he was just wonderful. And I got so much out of the meeting. And
Mark
get it?
Oh,
Yeah, Dussault. I think I'm just checking on.
what's he about?
He calls himself an exponential wealth strategist or something. Hang on, I'll just do. I'm sorry, I'm Marc Dussault. Yeah, Marc, M-A-R-C, the French spelling, Dussault. And he does, I think that's right anyway. He does, he calls himself an exponential wealth strategist. And I think I got the spelling right. Some names came up. But he really gets into the nitty gritty of businesses and looks at the way you're thinking about it and the way those thoughts transfer into actions and so on, the way clients interact with people, and the way you create a buying experience and things like that. So I had him as a mentor for a year. He's reasonably expensive as a mentor.
Yeah.
So I think I paid 70,000 or something for the year. So yeah, so well, they all cost, so, but but he also guarantees if you don't make double, no, if your income isn't 3 times what it was within a year, he'll give you double your fee back. This type of thing. So yeah,
Wow.
so yeah, so you do okay, and you can't
cool. Yeah.
but it's that kind of investment for me is really important. It's a little bit like I sold a property in Remuera recently, and back just earlier this year, and it was really interesting selling it because I thought, well, we live in a bit of a downward market, and I still like to get a reasonable amount for it. And I spoke to a lot of real estate agents, and I wanted more than 2 million for the property. But all the agents were saying, 1.7, 1.8, 1.75. And I just went through all these real estate people, and I went to Michael Bulgaris, who is, he's this amazing guy. He's known probably best for his being number one in real estate in Remuera and things like that. But he wanted to charge me at least $30,000 more than anybody else. Now, what's that?
He gives away bulbs, like a free flower bulb to everybody in Remuera, and he does it like every year. So so it's a bulb. So every year it flowers. So now I've got like 3 orchids from him.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. It's really interesting, actually. He lives on Remuera Road, and at Halloween, really interesting. He lives on the main drag there in Remuera, and he has he really decks out his house for Halloween. But all the kids come by, and he gives not only everyone all the candy they can think of, he invites all the parents in, because often little kids will go with their parents or caregivers. He invites them all in. He's got champagne, he's got caviar and crackers, and he feeds them all. He's there pouring champagne and going, welcome, welcome. And he makes he's really focused on the community. It's really interesting. So I was really taken with him. But he said he told me what he wanted. I did negotiate with him, and I got him down a bit. But I figured, look, if he gets me 100,000 more for the house, why would I worry about paying him an extra 30 to get 100? How many times would you do that? You get an extra 100. Man, that's a great deal. But we got over 2 million for it. So that was great. It was just so good. And we actually agreed on the price, and he got exactly that price. We agreed on the price, and I said to him, because I'm a bit hard nosed with real estate people. The one thing I hate them saying if I'm trying to sell a property is them coming back to me and saying, well, I'm really sorry, but that's what the market's telling us. I said, I never want to hear those words from you. All I want to hear is, we've got the money, it's in the bank, and we got the number you wanted. And he was as good as his word. He was wonderful. So I was very pleased. Yeah. So I can't remember what I was talking about with all that, but yeah. So that was that was
it. For selling property? Dealing with real estate agents?
Mainly, I have a policy of actually not selling property. You sell it when you have to, type of thing.
And an interesting one that I heard of is just trading, like trading up. If you do, like my property, I would like to, I've got like a multi-family property, and I would like to trade it to like a commercial accommodation property, like a hotel or something,
Yes.
Plus cash kind of thing.
Yes, no, I hear that. Hey, the property I was telling you about, that was the property you actually came and saw that property.
Oh yeah, totally. I remember all about it.
Absolutely. Oh right, okay, great. Yeah, so you would know that's the property I was talking about. Yeah.
I tried to like rent it off you or something.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. I just had to sell it basically. But so hence for property. Mainly my tips would be for buying property, because I just don't like selling it.
Por favor, please.
So tips for buying property. I tend to
finding property is seems to be the key. Like, the common question is like, tips for how to find a deal kind of thing.
Yeah, well, I have same thing. So my strategies with real estate agents are quite simple, really. I'm always straight up with them. I adopt what you would loosely call principle-centered negotiation. This is actually a strategy, principle-centered negotiation, which basically means you don't keep back what you're really prepared to do. You tell them. You just say, look, this is what I'm prepared to do. This is what I've got. Have you got something that will suit that? Rather than me trying to lowball people. I don't lowball people. So I don't make any lowball offers really. It's most unusual. It just pisses people off and gets them on the defensive. And it's certainly real estate agents hate it because they have to try and sell this idea because they have to present all offers, and they have to now present this idea that this person is the best and only hope this person's got, and they should take this offer. And you get a really reluctant seller then.
Unless it's been on the market for like 30 days or 3 months or something with no offers. But yeah. If they've had no interest.
A bit of a plan with all of that, you see. So for me, it works like this. The only properties I actually make offers on are those that have been passed in at auction. So we already know that there was really not enough interest. The money they were looking for was simply not enough, or maybe there was no interest. So they're the properties I'm going to go for. So people have already got their expectations are now, a little bit lower, and I don't have to convince them it's worth less because they already expect less.
Exactly.
So that's their properties I go for. But what I do is I walk into a real estate office and I have a list of maybe 15 properties on there. The first 3 will be crossed off, and I'll have a list of 13 or 12 other properties, and I'll say, look, this is where I am. I have $1 million cash. Someone wants my $1 million. It wasn't these first 3 people. They didn't want it. I'm just working my way down a list. I see you as showing the house that's 4th on the list. I'd like to make an offer for that house for $1 million. If that sounds like something you think you can live with, great. If not, that's fine. But I'm just crossing them off. So should I cross your one off, or should we have a shot and see if we can do this? So they know exactly where I'm coming from. They know exactly what I'm offering. There's no pissing around. And they can already see I'm making offers on other properties. And they say, well, yeah, okay, that's true. And then what happens is, you see, really, real estate agents are a weird one because they're acting on behalf, of course, of the vendor, not on you. But what I want is to sell me to the vendor, to the real estate agent. I want the real estate agent to go into bat for me. I want them to go into bat for me when they go and present the offer. In other words, hey, this guy's a straight shooter. This guy's got cash. He's got it now. He's working his way down a list. You just happen to be right now at the top of the list. He's already crossed off 3 other ones. He's got a whole lot after you. If you want to take advantage of it, you could have that $1 million right now. I know you're wanting a bit more, but hey, this guy's a straight shooter. If you say yes, we've got a deal, and he doesn't have to keep going to the next person down the list.
Yeah, you've built some really good rapport.
Yeah, but I'm straight up with them. I'm not saying I'm not trying to undercut them. And in fact, the house I'm living in right now. Well, the house I'm living in right now. I'll give you an example. They wanted 1.2 for the house, and I just said no, $1 million. I want to spend $1 million, and they came down to 1,030. Yeah, so just over $1 million. Now I could have just insisted on $1 million, but to go down from 1.2 to 1,030. I said, look, real estate agent. He said, I could probably get it a bit cheaper for you. I said, no. This is really, really good faith bargaining. I'm going to take their offer. Thank you. And I did. I mean, I could have squeezed a bit, but why bother? I got way more than I got a property under value. I was really happy with the deal I got, and I know that I wanted them to get a good deal too. I wanted the real estate agent to be happy. But I got a great deal, and I got a better deal than I thought I would. I thought I'd probably have to pay 1.1 for it, but I didn't. I paid 1,030. So for me, that was good faith bargaining on everyone's part, and I was going to play my part in that. Yeah, I might have got it a bit cheaper. I might have pissed them off a little bit more because I know they weren't happy with the deal they got, by the way. Because when it was really interesting, when the real estate agent said to me,